Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tbh. To be honest, we have another special guest with us. We have Mr. Kevon Richards. Kevon, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Dale. Good to be here.
Yeah, man, good to have you. Definitely good to have you. So, here's the first question I ask all of my guests. Who is Kevon Richards?
Well, I was fearing that question because, as I always tell individuals, it's really hard to describe who Kevon is. And I know most persons will be saying, how can you not describe who you are? You've been yourself for umpteen years. But the transitions that I've been through, the growth process that I've been through, all of my experiences have shown me so much of myself that I don't even fully understand. So the best way that I like to describe myself is by my philosophy. I am a product of God's amazing grace, and I'll help others become the same by God's grace. So that really gives a caption of the type of person I am. I believe that I'm here by God's grace because of his mercy, and each day I'm just seeking to reflect that new identity.
All right, nice. So, you are a pastor by profession?
Definitely.
All right, cool. So, I'm always interested to know with pastors, what made you want to become a pastor? What led that decision?
Alrighty, you asked a good question, but the truth be told, I don't believe there was ever a point in my life that I wanted to be a pastor. That was never part of my plan. That was the farthest thing that you could think of for Kevon. And that's why, jumping back to my philosophy of saying I'm a product of God's grace, before I became who I am today, I had my own, journey, trying to explore, trying to find myself, trying to enjoy life. And so at that time, no church, no Christianity. I was wanting to be myself, just explore. And at no point was there anything of a pastor in my mind. However, as a result of, making some bad decisions, ending up in a place where, desperate, like any Jamaican would say, God, if you save me, we always bounce back on that foundation to say, that which we learned, that there's a God, there's a supreme creator, and if you call out to him, he's able to do all things. So it is that decision that led me to look to God. And as a result of looking to God, I've been put on a journey, not a journey to become a pastor, at least I didn't know of that, but a journey to know God, to know his purpose, to know his will. And even at the point when his will was revealed for me to be a pastor, I still rebelled because it didn't fit into my understanding of what a pastor is. I believe a pastor is a righteous person. You're representing the creator God, that being you are taught to fear and to respect and to revere ever since. So that forced me to not want to accept that. And it was not until after getting counsel from mentors and really going on the journey along the way that I begin to embrace that this is God's call for me, and I will definitely walk in it fully. So I wouldn't say I wanted to be a pastor, but God chose me and I'm embracing the call.
So I'm hearing that you are hearing a call to be a pastor, but you're resisting it. That's what you're saying. You got muted.
Still with me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Very good. Sorry, I got a call.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're hearing God telling you to be a pastor for a while, but you're saying you're resisting it.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. And it's with counsel from other persons and so forth that you finally accepted.
Yes.
Okay. So you decided to go to NCU to study theology. What is it like being a theology major at NCU?
What was it like being a theology major? Well, for those who know me, I wasn't the ordinary theology student. I think I was considered to be weird, and I've been called that all throughout my 4 years because of certain things that I believed and would do. One of those things that persons found me to be very weird with is the fact that I would stop and pray with everyone, or I embraced kneeling down to pray. So for example, even in the cafeteria, if my prayer time comes, I would kneel and pray. And so that name developed, kneel and pray or prayer man. So I think I was considered to be very weird. But the journey was learning experience, I would say, learning to find out this new call, learning to find out this new journey of studying at this level, and just seeking to enjoy the opportunity while seeking to impart that which I believe God called me to do.
What led that decision to always kneel when you pray?
What led to that decision? Well, as I shared, it's just, all right, let me tell you the exact story behind it. I was sitting in the cafeteria once and I was eating my lunch as usual, and my prayer time, which is 12, came around. And I was slipping around to the back. The back end, there's a bathroom. I'm saying I'm going to go around there to pray. And it's like there's a voice in my head saying, are you ashamed of me that you can't pray here in the public? And it's like I could not answer, I could not give response, and it really troubled me. And from that, I said, I'm not ashamed of you. I'm not ashamed to embrace you anywhere and everywhere. And I knelt there and I prayed. And from that, I just decided that if I can pray anywhere else, yes, prayer is a private thing, but I don't know why God would have impressed it. I believe it was him. And reading further on, probably the writings of Ellen White and the scriptures, they weren't afraid to kneel and to pray. But I believe God particularly wanted to address some pride issue and some other things behind it in helping me not to be afraid to embrace him any and everywhere.
Gotcha. I had Pastor Odain Mighty on the podcast, and I asked him a question. I asked him about sometimes persons have, I know a lot of my friends that were at NCU didn't particularly fancy a lot of religion majors. Their reason being they kind of held them to a higher standard that a lot of them, in their opinions, weren't meeting. My question to him and my question to you is, one, should religion majors be held to a higher standard? They are humans, but they're also training to be pastors. So is the criticism fair? Should they be held to a higher standard? Should they just be viewed as just any other student? Talk to me about that.
All right, my response to that will quickly say that I have experienced that personally, because persons have abused me, not because of my wrongs, but because of the wrongs of others. So even my kneeling and praying, persons were saying I'm like the other fanatics and they know that soon I'm going to drop out. Or if they say I behave as if I'm too holy and they know that like the others, I'm going to do the same thing and they don't want to hear anything from the religion major. But I did not allow that to affect me. I strived or used that to set a different standard, to let them know that even if the entire crowd, there's going to be one by the grace of God. And I honestly believe that while religion majors are human beings and while persons are to be patient with us, pray with us as they would do for others, I believe that we should be criticized differently. We have a higher calling. To whom much is given, much is expected. So I would definitely agree with the criticism that religion majors are to be held at a different level. We are men of God, men of the cloth. And though, as I said, we're human beings, so if we fall, be patient with us, pray with us, and encourage us. But I honestly believe that we should be held by a higher standard.
Gotcha. All right, so I understand that you recently released a book, right?
Yes.
So from one author to another, I just want to congratulate you on that. I know that that's a big step. Tell me what led to you wanting to write a book.
Okay, thank you so much for the commendations. To God be the glory, and really appreciate the support of my dear wife, Kevon Richards, and to all those who actually helped to invest in the project. So many names that if I don't call it, it's because I don't want to miss anyone and get in trouble. What led to the book, the specifics, because there's a lot of story and I want to keep it specific. The specific situation was really the graduation speech. That was maybe about 8 minutes of the 24, 25 years experience. And when I saw the response of
To be clear,
yeah,
what speech are you referring to?
thank you so much. The valedictory speech, graduation speech. So that's graduation for 2019 batch. I was the valedictorian. So my graduation speech for the first commencement of the NCU graduation for 2019.
Okay.
So to how persons responded to that speech, I'm telling you, not only at NCU, not only in Jamaica, not just the Caribbean, but I believe it touched the world. Persons were sharing with me from New York, Queens to say they are hearing this speech and persons talking about it and they have been blessed. And what's particularly touched me as well is friends that I had from high school who knew me before I became a product of God's grace. And how these persons were pouring into me to say they're not Christians, but how much they are glad for the calling and they are glad for what they see. It's like God just held me and said, tell them the full story. Because many a times persons may see what you do and in all honesty, they might commend you. But God says, be careful, tell the full story and let them know where you're coming from and who is the power behind it. And that is why I started penning the words. And he says, title it, God Put Me Through. Because God is the power behind it. And put me through is that street where I lived, where a lot of the experiences came from. And it's just that intent to give people the full 9 yards to help them understand and be inspired that there's a great God who wants to do great things in our life.
I don't want to ask too much of the content because I want people to read the book. But I don't know if there's anything you can share, like where you're coming from, so people can have an idea of what, Kevon was before he became a product of God's grace.
Definitely, I'm appreciative of the opportunity. I was grown in Lilliput. That's a little community in Montego Bay, St. James. And just by calling Montego Bay or calling St. James, you already have an idea of the type of culture that exists there. And I would say I was impacted by that culture. Not being raised with my father, mother not being in the home for most of the time because she is seeking an honest way to care for her 6 children. Older siblings not being equipped enough to keep us in check. I had the opportunity to experiment with drinking, experimenting with smoking, following the advice of friends to mess around with females, you name it. Had access, not capitalizing on these opportunities, had access to guns, had access to scamming, you name it. That was the culture around you. And not having a positive male figure particularly, and a strong family bond to keep you in check, though they tried their best. I want to specifically say because there was not a strong male figure. It's easy when you come of a certain age to want to listen to friends and others who will guide you. And so I did make some bad decisions experimenting with these things. And that's some of where I am coming from. But as a result of going through all of that, at times not having enough, at times seeing mom cry, at times wondering where father is, at times being disruptive in school. At one point, I was on the behavior modification program. And that's a program where you either modify your behavior or be expelled. And even after school, it's one of my disciplinarians who told me that more than one time my name was called up to be expelled because of my disruptive behavior. Not that I was fighting but I could not find myself. I didn't know my father, didn't have a strong background, so I was very disruptive. Just needing love, needing attention, needing affection, and all of that is some of the experiences that made me disruptive, made me what some have called a rebel. But the experience of coming to know God, being transformed by his grace, that's the story of coming out of those type of a background to where God can use me to be an inspiration to others and a motivator and an example.
You mentioned the valedictorian speech. Is that anywhere available online where persons, if they want to listen to it, they can find it?
Most definitely. So the speech is still on Facebook. It's on the Northern Caribbean University website, and as well as my platform, my personal page, Kevon Richards. And I think a couple of other persons have shared it as well. So They can access this on Facebook, or if they should Google just the name Kevon Richards, it will pop
up. Okay, nice. All right, so what are some of the challenges that you experience getting this book done? Because the decision to make a book is one thing, to actually execute it is another. So tell me about some of the challenges you've experienced.
Now, the first challenge that I experienced is the fact that I'm a novice. And the fact that I'm a novice was my biggest challenge. Why? I have big dreams. I have big desires. I have a vision of where I want to go, but I don't know the nitty-gritty of how to get it done. So you can imagine me trying to build a house without any form of knowledge. I'm just trying to throw blocks, concrete, hoping that something will come out of it. So I'm thankful for the persons like Miss Louise Brown from Northern Caribbean University. She came on board, she mentored me and did the editing of the book. My wife, as I shared, always a backbone. My brother and his family there to support. Pastors and workers like Dr. Merrick Walker and others, they come on and they guide me the step-to-step procedure of how to actually get there. Pastor Dermar Watson, one of my biggest supports, he did the graphics of the book. He told me where to go, what to do, how to get it done. OIR Publishing, though I didn't publish with them, he still tried, Mr. Hutchinson, to give me some advice. And of course, Dale, your support and encouragement along the way, and others who support the project. So one of the biggest challenges was the fact that I'm a novice, but I'm glad for the persons who stepped in and helped me. And then secondly, finances, of course, because how to actually finance the project. Miss Louise Brown, I'm sure she doesn't mention me saying this, that though what she did was expensive, she didn't charge me a nickel. When I asked her how much it is, she says nothing. I'm just encouraging you, and later on you can come back and invest. And other persons along the way also invested and supported the project. So those are just some of the challenges, but God, every step of the way, put the process through.
Wow, that's amazing. So the book is out now?
Most definitely, it's out and ready.
How can persons get the book?
How can persons get the book? Well, if they're on social media, they'll notice the publication of the different flyers that explains, give the bank account details, my personal contact, that of my wife, whereby once they pre-order, then we make the delivery. So actually today I'm seeking to go out and to drop off some of the books that have been pre-ordered. If you want to go through the church, through your church pastor, through the education sponsor or colporter, you can use that medium. There are colporter students who are also supporting the project. So those are some of the ways you can get it. So once you follow any of the links, you can get access to the book.
Okay, just repeat the links for persons, your social media.
Okay, so my YouTube page is at Pastor Kevon Richards, or you can type in Let's Talk Jesus. That's the name of the webpage, but Pastor Kevon Richards is the actual name under it. So on YouTube, you can find me there. On Facebook, it's Kevon Richards. So you can find me there as well. And if you're going by phone, 876-303-9052 or 876-435-4656. Any of those mediums, WhatsApp, call, or text, you can get access.
Great. What's the response been so far to the book?
Well, I am very much appreciative of the level of support and the patience of the individuals, because one of the challenges was the fact that NCU Press was the original press to print them, but they are overloaded with other works, and so I had to switch gear. And so the persons have been very patient waiting for it to come. And so I'm very appreciative of that. But they have been supporting big time, especially the churches that I would have served. I'm careful not to call names so that I don't get in trouble. But they have stood behind the project. They have supported the project. And family members, my wife's family, which is my family, also standing firmly behind us. Sister Ruth Walcott, all my mentors and supporters, the CJC Prayer Ministry. All throughout, persons have just been responding. Even before the book came, they took a big chance with me, sending in their funds beforehand, like maybe 2 or 3 months beforehand. So I'm very appreciative of that. So the support has been good, and we look forward to more persons coming on board.
Great. One more time, what's the name of the book?
The name of the book is God Put Me Through, the Inspiring Journey of a God-Driven Life. More than a speech, the inspiring journey of a God-driven life.
Wow. Great.
Definitely.
All right. So tell the people, where are you now and what are you doing?
Alrighty, so at present, I am the intern pastor for the St. John's District of Churches. I work along with my senior pastor, Dr. Roy Dennis, and that's where my ministry is focused. But all throughout, we try to continue to make best use of the time and best use of the creativity. So not just this book, but I just want to give a little, what you'd call it now, a trailer that something else is on the way. So we continue to do ministry, we continue to give up our best, but we continue to also, like Paul, use the creativity and the giftedness to inspire and to bless.
Amen, amen, amen. Kevon, I just want to thank you for coming on, sharing your story, a bit of it, sharing the book with us. Definitely know my viewers will be interested in getting a copy. Is there any last message of encouragement or anything you want to share with my viewers?
Well, I just want to say thanks to you first and foremost for the opportunity. And I just want to ask viewers to continue to support, because I know this is a powerful channel that is going to make a difference in the life of especially our youth. My word of encouragement in these last days, in these times of pandemic and trouble, of trials, of circumstances, of so much that is happening, there is a God. There is the God, definite article, who is ready to come into your life and to do great things, to put you through, not only in this life, but to make you ready for the better life to come. Trust God and watch Him put you through.
Amen. Kevon, once again, I want to thank you for coming on. Definitely a blessing.
Definitely. Appreciate it, and God bless, man.
All right, Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, this was another episode of Tbh. Blessings.